Hi, welcome to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. I'm Ivy, your lovely spider host, and today I'm teaching you what I kinda know about anatomy. So, for the most part, you guys recommended this because some people wanted tutorials from me or wanted to learn something from me. And usually I would say I'm not really the person to go to because I'm not great at teaching things because I ramble and it's hard for me to explain things or put things into words. Because it makes more sense to me than it would probably make sense to other people. So I probably wouldn't be the best source, but I am going to do this anyways because I'm trying for y'all. Anyways, let's get started. So to start, there's different varieties of bodies, more than just the ones that I'm showing here, but these are some of the female ones. I try to use drastically different ones to get the sense of different body types because, again, there's so much more variety than just these, but there's chubby, petite, and muscular, which is kind of what I went for. Again, this varies from body to body. It is not just these that are the main body types. There's different shapes you can use. There's tons of different body types out there. So please keep that in mind that these are not just the basic ones you have to automatically go for. There's so many other varieties. But the anatomy I'm going to say is going to be very dependent on your art style because you can exaggerate more and you can, like, for instance, if you took a cartoony art style, more people would tend to exaggerate with said art style because it's a cartoon. It's not super realistic or based in reality. And, Again, it really just depends on what art style you want to go for, whether it's realistic, in between, or cartoony. It's not set in stone. It's very dependent on what you want to do. Generally people are 7 heads tall, so this can vary depending on how tall or short your person is. So it really depends. For instance, with the first girl, she's 6.5 heads tall because she's kind of short. The middle girl is 7 heads tall, and the taller girl is 7.5. So it generally depends because you kind of have to section it out, and some people may be taller or shorter depending on how long their limbs are, because people will have longer limbs and or shorter limbs. It really depends. I usually would say to think of the body in 3D shapes, and after you get used to thinking the body in 3D shapes, it comes more naturally when you're able to draw these, draw guidelines and stuff. So usually you would think of the arms as cylinders and circles, because you have to stretch and bend, and it really depends on how you gesture it out, but you basically have to build on top of these cylinders and stuff to add fat, to add muscle. It really depends. I guess I would have to explain it, but this is what the guidelines are. So as you can see with the orange body type, I gave her a more circular tummy and kind of bulked out the midsection and the waist section because that's generally kind of, I guess it would be an example of my body type because I'm kind of chubby, but it would be more like that. So it really depends on how bulky you want to go, how thin you want to go, and it truly just depends. It truly depends on the body type you want to achieve, and it's very key that you need to have reference because reference will help with just about everything when you're studying or practicing art. Again, there is a difference between referencing and then tracing. Be careful to tread those lines. Copying something line for line or tracing or anything like that is not okay. Referencing is so much different than tracing. People get it confused all the time and they think it's cheating. It is not. People in the industry will reference all the time. They need to do it for specific characters, specific things, especially with whatever the project is you're working on. Doing referencing is not a crime. Please stop saying it's a crime. I never understand why people say referencing is bad. Tracing is the one that's bad if you're claiming something and profiting off of it and saying that it's your own. Here is some male bodies. So, again, like I said, you want to think of the body in 3D shapes and stuff. We're not really Paper Mario in the sense we're not two-dimensional little sticks of paper. So, you want to think of the body as 3D as possible, because the way your arm bends and way that perspective works with certain poses, you want to keep it in mind that we are three-dimensional little creatures. So, and here are the guidelines to how I break down those body types. Again, that's just kind of the way I do it. There's an oval body type, a thinner, kind of almost strawberry, but it's more triangular because it's thinner and not as bulky at the top, and a rectangle body type. So you want to just keep these in mind for just some varying body types. Again, you can use just about any shape to base a body type off of. Again, it truly depends on what you want to go for. Again, reference is key. It's good to have references for what body type you want to go for, or if there's any specific features you want to get down. It really helps to have a visual reference to look and work upon. So, always have reference. It helps when you're studying, it helps when you're just learning. So, always keep that in mind. So here is how I kind of break down a torso. The torso kind of comes in 3 different parts, and you want to make sure you draw the curvature of the spine, and then draw like the breastplate, the midsection, and then the pelvis, depending on where the spine rests and how it's curved. So I also would like to say that sometimes people, when they're studying torsos, have always said that it kind of resembles like a pillow, like how a pillow squishes and squashes, or how it turns and twists. So always think of a pillow when you're working on a torso, because it can bend different ways, you can see it from different perspectives, and it always helps to have reference. Again, like, I sometimes have to reference a pose because I'm not great at gesturing out stuff. I suck booty cheeks at trying to figure out a pose for my character. And sometimes I just need to have a visual reference to be like, okay, I can do that pose. Or, like, I have a pose app on my iPad where I reference the picture and I'm like, okay, I can do the pose in this way, and then I will gesture it out based on that. It's just I have a hard time, like, visually putting it on a paper without having a reference to look upon. So it helps to have that even when you're just posing certain stuff, because sometimes people need help with that. Be sure to mark where the spine is and where the shoulders go, because this will help a lot for beginners when you're not sure what you're doing. Like I said, on the referencing stuff, it's good to have visual reference. I will say that to the moon and back, because sometimes it helps when you're learning anatomy, especially for things that you're not used to, like drawing the human body, or even when it comes down to like drawing a dog. Like, I can't draw a dog from my brain. I have to have a visual reference because there's so many different variations and breeds that they have different anatomy compared to one another. So it's like, I gotta be like, how do I draw a little weenie dog? How do I draw this? How do I draw a chihuahua? Because there's such varying different species and stuff. It eats me up that people say that referencing is bad, when even industry standards require you to reference or have like reference images to work upon. Anyways, when it comes to looking at some of the stuff with like adding body fat and stuff, like I said, reference helps. I will show a little thing at the end of the video where I take a picture from a pose app and I draw guidelines on top of it, and then I redraw what I see. So it's like not directly tracing off of it, because, you know, sometimes people do it with a pose app because it's not somebody else's work and stuff, but at the same time, I still want to draw what I see rather than trace over a body image, you know? But that's just me. But when it comes to the face, think of an oval kissing a cute little circle. They're girlfriends, they're boyfriends, they're you know, they're just smooching. But you can also think of it as like wearing a mask on your face, so you know where your face rests on the skull and stuff. And it's good to have guidelines so you know where the eyes are, where the ears start, where the nose is. It's always good to have that. And then we'll move on to arms. So think of the arms as cylinders and circles, and there's like 3 main joints. There's your shoulder, your elbow, and then your wrist. And so you want to think of it in that term, and then your upper arm and your forearm are like the spaces in between those. And then when you're drawing hands, think of it as a rectangle, and then the fingers as, I guess, kind of rounded triangles, or like just like tinier cylinders or something, whether you want to, because like sometimes cylinders help, but I always kind of work with it in like triangle shapes. It's kind of weird, but the finger also has 3 joints, kind of like your arm does. It has the part where it connects to your palm, the midsection, and then the one that leads to your fingertips. You want to think of it in 3 sections, so it helps to have those individually kind of situated. And sometimes what helps me kind of figure out how I want to draw a hand is that sometimes when you're posing a hand, you can clump a few fingers together. Like, I guess the best way to do it is like if you have like 3 fingers together and 1 finger separate. It helps kind of doing it like that, because then you can have one kind of little square area where you can just draw little lines in between to have your fingers kind of implied, and then you can draw upon that and like line art and all that stuff. The legs have a specific curvature to them, so the front of the thigh is curved while the back is more flat, and then the back of the calf is more curved while the front of the calf is flat. So it's like a backwards S shape is the best way I can describe it. Feet are more triangle based, and sometimes I put a little circle to imply where the ankle is, so I do that. And sometimes the feet kind of have like they also have a curvature to them, but it's not really S shaped. It really depends on, it's like a weird, it's so hard to explain. You have to look at feet pics to probably you probably have to look at feet pics to have a more exact reference for it, and I don't think anybody here wants to look at feet pics other than Dan Schneider, so anyways, but my point being, it helps to have visual reference for how you want to draw feet and stuff, because you can study it more in-depthly. And yeah, toes are weird. I still suck at drawing toes, I will fully admit that. So yeah, it helps have reference. I also do a little thing where I indicate where the toes would start and end. So it's like a little, it's like a semicircle where I indicate where the toes go and stuff. So it just helps me visualize and stuff. And then when you put the whole thing together, you put the whole shebang together, you kind of get a person. And of course you can build upon the 3D shapes and add more fat or more muscle. It really depends on what you're going for. You can make the torso more thick, you can make the torso more thin. It really depends, again, on the body type you want to achieve. It depends on the art style. And mine's kind of in between. It's not super realistic and it's also not super cartoony. So, like I said, it varies very much. So keep that in mind. Like I said, now that we're kind of towards the end of the video, be sure to, you can like literally use anything for this. You can use like a person who's offering pose references like on DeviantArt and stuff, where I think it's like the people in like the bodysuits where they take pictures of them doing poses and stuff with like prop weapons and stuff, and you can take a picture of that and then draw guidelines on top of it. I particularly use a pose app where I'm looking at a visual reference and then I draw guidelines based on the image, and then I draw the actual, like I redraw what I see, what my guidelines are, and I do it that way. And it just helps to practice and stuff, and again, having visual reference is always great. So I hope this helped. I'm not particularly great at teaching, and I ramble a lot, so I apologize. And I hope this helped. I hope you learn and you grow in your art style and stuff, and you have fun with it. Thank you very much for watching. I apologize for all my rambling, and bye-bye!